call the meeting to order. If everybody will stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Clerk, do we have a quorum present?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. No proclamations. The first item on the agenda is the review and approval of the minutes from January the 9th.
Make a motion, accept as written.
Well, let me last one. Oh, let's ask one question. I've got no feelings about this one way or another, but do we need to mention in this that we thought that a 2-to-1 vote passed that, passed Alex's motion that we take that second company to cut down the house? The house down. Do we need to? And it wasn't until after the fact that we found out that a 2-to-1 didn't do that. This looks like it just happened as 2-to-1, that therefore it didn't pass. Any reason to put that in there? I wouldn't see.
I did not put in that there was that presumption, because
Yeah.
I built these minutes after the fact, and at that point we knew what the result was.
Was that Horizon ever contacted and said, we told them that they won it?
No, because
Okay.
we're back on this
All right,
right.
so it's basically amongst us girls.
Right.
Okay. Never mind. I'm gonna make that motion, I'll second it.
All right, so Stan has the first,
Second.
Tom has the second. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, under new business, and I also would like to point out that we continued several of the items from last meeting's agenda onto this one because we wanted to speed up the process a little bit two Mondays ago. So these are things that would have been on the regular agenda had we not had such a big game. But the first item is a row of Leland cypresses in between the Beckham property and the resident that lives at the end of Main Street right next to the railroad tracks. When we took down all of the ground cover, the grubbing, and took out all the trees and the overgrowth out there, you can see into that young lady's back porch and into her backyard. And as soon as I realized how much of her view was exposed, I told her right off the bat, we'll do something to cover it up. Now that it's starting to get springtime, things are starting to grow, I'd like to go ahead and put a request before council to approve us purchasing the Leland cypresses to install over there. We're going to need 10 of them on an offset row so they're staggered and create a true windbreak and a hedgerow. I'd like to get permission from council to spend an amount not to exceed $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, whatever you guys think would be appropriate, not to exceed that, and then between all the work that we have going on and that we will have going on, I will get somebody to install them, either the county, Arbor Valley, or one of these other contractors that we're probably going to have on the grounds over the next 30 days. My goal would be to have them in the ground, certainly, probably by the middle of February, but I just don't know what the timing is going to be, and I don't know if I want to keep pushing it back till February and then come back, and because I know we're going to need to plant them. I know we're going to need to purchase them, and I just wanted to come to council and explain what I needed and see what you guys thought, and if y'all had any suggestions.
Any value at all in having somebody like Breaking Ground come in and look at our overall landscaping and give us an idea of what we can do, including that? Not necessarily do everything now, but just make it where it fits. Because there are a lot of things other than Leland cypress we can use. The green giants, depending on the, depending on the shading of the trees that are down there.
Right,
I mean,
right.
everything from Elaeagnus to green giant.
And I'm using Leland cypress as a general placeholder for evergreen, conifer,
Yeah.
ever-growing
fast
tall
growing.
bush, you know,
Yeah.
so it may end up being a blue cypress or a Leland
Yeah,
or.
so what they might tell you to do is they might say, look, put 4 of these, 3 of these, 2 of these, and they're all evergreen.
Sure, absolutely, and if they do that, and you guys, and of course, as soon as we make a decision or find it, you guys will find, y'all will find out.
I would think they'd come in and do it for nothing, in anticipation of bidding on the bushes.
Yes, yeah, they probably would.
They'd be in, you know, yeah.
And I also have had some thoughts of wrapping. I have had thoughts of waiting to do that till we did a landscape design, but I don't want to make the young lady wait, because as we get more stuff done, I think we're going to have people out here, and I would just want to go ahead and take care of it if I can. But certainly, if they have a better suggestion than a Leland cypress, because those aren't perfect plants, you know, they do tend to split. They do tend to brown out in patches, so that may not be the best plant there.
The Leland cypress is going along the lines of where the red tips went. Remember the red tips? They'd be real popular back in the 70s and 80s. You don't see them anymore because some kind of fungus got them.
Right. Huh.
And the Leland cypress are prone to some things that are coming along.
Okay.
I'll volunteer to go down and talk to them.
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I
No.
buy from them, and
Okay.
I'll just ask them what we should do,
Okay.
and I'll get an idea of the. You talking about just a long?
I'm talking
fence
like
between the Beckhams and that house.
And if you go out there, you can see where I have flags staked out all
Okay.
the way along, or just a general place where I was, you know.
All I'd look for is where there's a tree that would block it.
Right.
You know, because you'll end up with, in 10 years, you'll end up with a 5-foot tree next to a 20-foot tree.
Right.
You know, because of the
True.
shade.
Okay.
Okay. We're on the same wavelength.
I mean, when you need relatively mature trees going in for it to do anything at all, you just go out and plant Leland cypress from Home Depot. I mean, they're
So I was
barely
gonna.
2 feet tall, you know?
I was going to go with a larger
30 gallon?
tree, probably a 30-gallon,
Okay.
which is about 5 or 6 feet tall, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And of course, if they recommend, a 20-gallon or 40-gallon, then I'll just.
Well, that's the 30-gallon tree is going to cost you $100.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I came up with $1,000 or so.
And if you let them plant it, it's going to cost you $1,000 more because they charge this, whatever the tree costs, they charge you that much more to plant it.
So as far as the install, we've got a number of things that are going on around here. What I was going to try to do was when we had something scheduled, I was going to ask the installer, be it the painter or the fence people or the pond people, and say, hey, can you go ahead and install these? And then we would just negotiate a price. Obviously, if it's over 500, I'd come to you guys and say, hey, do y'all approve this? But hopefully it will be under 500 because they'll already be out there. They'll already have the equipment, and we can have things happen efficiently.
I think Slade was going to, as part of his original bid on that Beckham house, while he was tearing things up, he was going to use his equipment to scratch the holes from those trees.
Exactly.
So,
That's exactly.
That's $1,000.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, I'll go down there and talk to him.
Okay, talk to Breaking Ground?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if
And,
they blow me off, I'll go somewhere else. There's several places in the area.
Okay. So what is an amount that council would feel comfortable with authorizing for this expenditure? I was thinking 1,000, 1,200, but certainly I would not think more than 1,500, and I'm going to try to keep it up under that if I can.
Well, if it gets to be 1,500, you just go to 20-gallon pots instead of 30-gallon pots.
Right.
And you just have to live with the idea of a 4-foot tree versus a 5-foot tree. And you just shrink it down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they have 20-gallon pots, I don't know if they do. They may, but you're right. We could go down one size and use it.
I know I bought a bunch of them behind my house, and I bought them 6 feet tall, and they were 30-gallon. And I could have got 5 feet, and they were 20.
Okay.
And that was a green giant, which is the first cousin to a Leland.
Yeah.
All right. I'll do that. I'll just send you a note when I get something from you.
Okay. So can I get a motion if it pleases council?
I think 1,500 is a good number.
1,500? All right. If I can get a motion from council to authorize spending of not to exceed 1,500 on purchase of a hedgerow, Leland cypress hedgerow for,
You're gonna try to get the install done under 500.
yes.
In addition to that.
Yeah, and the install will be in addition to that.
Right.
I'll second that.
That's what did we make an official motion?
Not sure.
Mm,
I'll make a motion that we'll.
All right. So
Do
Alex has
1,500.
the first.
I'll second it.
Tom has the second. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. The next item on the agenda is not necessarily an actionable item, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. Several of y'all have mentioned over the years about having muddy water and having just general water quality issues. While the water that we get from Cheering does tend to be high quality, and I grew up on it and I've always enjoyed it, we have noticed there have been some water quality issues over the last couple of years. And I just wanted to bring it to you guys to let you know that we're hearing it from folks even outside of council. And while I check with Cheering anytime I hear it, I normally get an explanation, which, makes sense, and most of the times they're responsive to it. But I wanted to bring it to y'all as a council to say this is something that we need to keep our ears open for, and be prepared to think up or be aware of any other actions that come along and how we may approach it.
I'm not volunteering anything on my part, but I've got an in-house filtration system, and I change it every 3 months. And I know what's coming in as far as crud. And I have seen times when it's darker red than you're sure it is, dark orange. But I hadn't seen that in 2 years.
Okay.
But I have noticed an off flavor in the morning sometimes. And that's usually when they get out of whack on their chlorine. And it forms some compounds that are.
Yeah. Most of the complaints tend to be about the crud, like you say, in the water. And it usually tends to happen in periods of heavy rain, which we've had a lot of rain, or if they've had a break. We also know that this system was put in the 1960s, and those polybutylene pipes are just starting to crack, and there's probably some infiltration going on. Locally, yes.
It's somebody's house that's complaining.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
So, it's just, I'm bringing it to you so that we can talk about it as a council and figure out a way to approach it. There are things in our contract that we have with them that was signed in 2017 about repairs and updates and maintenance. I don't have an update on that, but we will continue to follow up and ask and see where they are with some of their responsibilities. Is there anything anybody else wants to add on the water quality?
And whenever I change my filter, I'll let you know if it looks pretty.
Okay.
I've taken pictures of them.
Yep.
And I've screwed around with Alan a little bit on it too. Do you want me to send this dirt back?
Yes, and that is the other thing. If you get any pictures from anybody, please forward them to Floyd so he can just keep track of them. All right. Next item of business is our procurement policy. I've been grumbling quietly sometimes and not so quietly at other times about the procurement policy that we have. And it's not that the policy, I don't think, is as wrong. It's the environment today makes the procedure cumbersome. A perfect example was the fence discussion that we had 2 weeks ago. One quote was received on October 17th. The next one, just because of the run of business and competing priorities, didn't happen until the second week of January. There were big differences in the two quotes and in the two bids. And as much as I brag on our staff and as good as they are not supermen nor superwomen. As a part-time mayor, I also have other responsibilities outside the town. And I bring up all that to say, if we can come up with a cleaner or friendlier procurement policy that still meets the transparency requirements that local government requires and needs, I would like to find that, because as transparent as we are about budgeting and about how much money we spend and where we put what, there's no benefit to us arguing over who's related to who when it comes to procurement. If somebody wants to help this town, and God bless them if they want to give us a good deal, I say all for it. I've come to you guys before, and we've had items on the agenda, and they sit here for months, and we finally get to a point of where we can move on an item, any item, and we stumble over our procurement policy. We ought not to run into that. Now, like I said to some of y'all after the last meeting, the fence bids were my mistake. I should have cleaned them up, and I should have organized them, and shoulda, woulda, coulda. But I would like to come to y'all with some options and some opportunities for procurement, especially before we go out and do big multi-$1,000 of jobs. Doing a fence or doing a clean out or planting some trees is a little bit different than whatever demolition we do. So I want to find and bring to you a good procurement policy that we can use simply, that is available to the public, and there's no surprises for council or for the vendors or for the bidders, because I want to keep their goodwill as well. And having a guy come out and do a bid 2 or 3 times because we didn't get all the information on the first swipe, it's just not good governance. It's just not good business.
Or we didn't ask him for it in the first place.
Or even remembering the exact question to frame and asking for it when you do it 8 weeks apart. So we are going to be bringing up some examples of procurement policies. I have spoken with Noonan. They have different levels of procurement that are not anything as big as an RFP, but it's a notice of bid or notice of announcement. Brad, is that the lower level one? I had a conversation with Cletus a week and a half or so ago about some of it.
I mean, they have various levels. Now, I don't get involved in that, so I don't.
Okay.
I only get involved in the higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I don't know exactly.
Right.
And it's basically small items that are budgetary items from a purchase order standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And they have different levels of expenditures.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And of course, you got to remember, under their policy, the city manager can make awards up to $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
now he has to report it
Mm-hmm.
and what they do and their policies.
Yeah.
And he has to get, so if he sends out a notice for something that is say a fence or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, then, I mean, they get to, if it's less than the 50,000, they get to do certain things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And usually the department heads go out and get those kinds of quotes, and then the city manager signs off on them.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they try and get as many as they can get, as you can
Mhm.
imagine. So they do publicize them
Yeah.
to be able to get that, but there's a different level. The difference, and I'm just giving my 2 cents in what y'all have gotten experienced here in the last couple of things, is that even if you put out a notice, you tell them what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've looked at the bids on the fence, everybody's bidding different things as to what was wanted. Same thing with taking the house down.
Mm-hmm.
I sent Floyd a copy of the RFP that the city put out for no purpose. Not that you have to have the 17-page document, what they do
Right.
in that, but at least the small items so
Mhm.
that you know everybody's bidding on the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Under the blessed beacon on the horizon that good government starts at the local level,
Mm-hmm.
I'd hate to see this thing, I'd hate to see it become a social engineering document. I'd hate for the first half of it to be that you have to have a woman on your board of directors, and you have to have LGBT, whatever it is, money to go to your secretary if that's what she wants. I want to know how much it's going to cost us to tear the damn house down. And I don't want to do social engineering.
I don't, that's not the plan. The plan,
I just mentioned it because
Right, yeah.
I can see it happening, because I know if you try to do something at Atlanta Airport, you wouldn't believe what you gotta do at Atlanta Airport. I mean, you gotta give, 20% of your revenues to a false company to satisfy their requirements that you have a minority-owned business. I mean, and we would never do something like that, but it's a baby step. If you start doing little things, it's a baby step to the next thing. And I don't wanna act like
No,
we
and
sponsor
that's,
something like that.
yeah, and that's, I mean, and honestly, I personally, I don't think we're so far down that road. I'm just like you. I just want to get I just want to have a good bid that passes muster, passes the smell test of the public, and then we can just move on with the business.
I don't think anybody will ever second guess us if what we do is we say, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tear this house down, we want the stuff hauled off, we want the ground graded so we can plant grass, and all the trash hauled off.
Are we providing I guess that's what we're getting at here, are we providing some sort of document to these contractors that says, here's our punch list, what's it gonna cost us to get this
Yeah.
done? I mean, that
Yeah.
seems like a simple.
Yes, that's what we're
Yeah.
looking at coming up with.
Or have we just been doing it by discussion, saying, oh, here's what we're thinking about, why don't you give us a bid on it?
Yes.
That's one
Yeah.
thing
Yes.
versus.
Yes,
not
that's
been
what
very
we've been
good.
doing. It's been
Okay.
being bid by
I
discussion.
mean, it would make sense to have a simple, like a work order,
Mhm.
essentially, right? That
Right.
says, here's what obviously they can make changes to it and include that in their quotes, okay?
Mhm.
We might suggest something as a council or as a mayor, as even the clerk, somebody can suggest something that's not
Right.
the right way of doing it. Okay, we'll strike that line item and say that they could come back with their quote, but they're still satisfying our punch list, so we know that, this guy and this guy and this other guy, they all check the boxes of what we're looking for. My problem with the last discussion at the last meeting was just the difference in detail of the quotes. Then we wind up at a point where it's difficult to say, because we're going off of word of mouth, well, the X person said they would do this and do that, so, I don't think we need anything more than that, personally, more than us deciding, what's our punch list, what are we looking to have done, and as long as they satisfy that criteria, then it's up to us to make the best decision of getting the best value.
You're right, and it is, but what we need to have is a policy that is consistent and defensible and fair.
Yeah. It's not a step back, but I'm gonna carry forward just a little bit on what I just said about the social engineering part. You need to have a statement in there that if it's over a certain amount of money, they have to have E-Verify. You have to have a certain thing, you ought to have a thing in there that says that they meet all local and regional building codes. Basic OSHA requirements, okay? But that's different than some of the other stuff that I mentioned.
Right.
You need to have that, insurance. Just a statement, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah, well, that would be under the required documents
Yeah,
part of the
in
solicitation.
the corporate world, we always call those the weasel words.
Yep.
I do have a question for
Sure.
you. When you say making the process more fair, can you expound on that?
Yeah, just making sure that everybody knows what is expected of them.
Make it clear.
Like you say, having this item, this item, this item, and this item. Because I can't, and see, that was a position that I found myself in on this last meeting, is I had conversations with each of them, and I knew what each of them were gonna do. But I can't, it's not fair for me after I talk to one of them and say, well, this guy's gonna do this. That gets into bid rigging, and that's the kind of stuff that I want to step back and avoid. Because I'm not going there. I'm quite simply not gonna go there. And yes, I may know something that the other contractors have told me, but I'm not gonna come over here and tell you guys, because guess what? I've told you something that may not be true, may not be factual, and you may make your decision off of that. And that's kind of what I mean, to put
Yeah,
it really
it's just
in black
as
and white.
bad as if we did not have a document like we're talking about creating, a bid request, if we didn't have that, and the conversation was had with you, and then you recluse yourself, or whatever the hell the word is, and then you go outside, there's nobody to tell us what they told you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that's,
Isn't that what I just said? I didn't want to get in that position.
yeah, but it
So,
was,
well, because I don't want to be put in the position of the contractor saying, well, he said this in the meeting, and I didn't really say that. That's the
Yeah,
position I want to avoid.
Yeah, it's really,
Yeah.
it's wrought with peril.
Yep. And if we have a policy and a procedure that is clean and smooth and easy, and at the same time, when they're getting 600 and 700 phone calls a month, it's hard for them to chase down the 3 bids. It's hard for me to chase down the 3 bids. Now, that's not, I hate to sound like I'm making an excuse for it, and I kind of sort of am, but it's hard with our limited staff and our limited hours. We can't get everything done in a day.
One of the good things about being small is we can act. One of the bad things about being small is we can't remember everything.
True.
So, yeah, let's do this and let's go forth and send them more.
I kind of feel like if we could just come up with a form for these bid requests, we could use that as sort of a litmus test. We could always build a policy
Yeah.
around how that works for us.
Yeah.
Whatever other projects we do, we get the form, then we say, hey, you know what, the form's great, but we should add X, Y, Z to the
Right.
policy to improve it.
Okay.
I mean, we're obviously, we don't have a city manager, we're not at the level where we're gonna just have someone,
Yeah.
okay, we can approve the spending because we got the money. It's gonna have to be brought before the council, but,
No.
to me, with the standout thing is, yeah, having a form that, so that, like I walked in here at the last meeting, honestly, I didn't even know we were taking down that house or had bids for it. Now, part of that's on me because I'm a little bit out of the loop, but also if I had a reference material to look at, and I could just look at a bid and then look at what the town asked for and match it up. And if you write a poorly written bid and it doesn't match up, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we're missing out on a deal. That guy might have brought us a great deal, but it was poorly written, so we weren't able to, vote on it because the details weren't there. But having a reference document, I think, would be a good start for us, and simple to create a one-page form that says, we could sit here and do it at the meeting. It says, okay, what are we looking for? Okay, put that on the form and start getting bids. And wherever that falls short, I think we could add to that policy pretty easily without overcomplicating it.
That sounds great. That's in line, I think, with what we want, system-wise. I think it covers us legally. I knew that, especially after last month, I knew that we needed to have further discussions on it and get a little bit more direction from council on filling out the boxes. All right, Stan, anything on that? Anything else that you got? Brad, do you have any other comments on staying safe with procurement and all that?
Other than I think what you need to do is have a workshop or something and look at the current policy. We need to look at, the state requirements on procurement, because you can't, you have to assume that there's certain things that you have to do. In other words, if we start getting in sidewalk projects, you've got to advertise those in the newspaper, you've got to take bids not on just repair, I'm talking about a full project. You have to follow what state bidding requirements are on certain transportation projects. You've got to follow the city's ethics ordinance on any of those. That's kind of what we're getting into, is at what point on some of this stuff, because we are small, and at what point do you have actual conflicts versus perceived conflicts? And I tell folks that state law is very careful about the fact that you have to have a financial interest, not simply because you're related to somebody, but you have to have financial interest in what is going on. So, what little bit I know about you recusing yourself, I'm not sure you had to recuse yourself.
And I kind of thought the same thing too. It was a married cousin, but at the same time,
That happens.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
particularly
yeah.
in small towns.
yeah.
But the general rule is, if you or an immediate family member has a financial interest in it, then you need to recuse yourself. So if your wife's cousin, if she was on the board of directors of the company and getting paid a fee, then you would need to recuse yourself. But simply because he's a cousin and he may be making money off of it, that's no reason to recuse yourself.
Okay.
Now, you may want to disclose that, which is always a good thing to do, but that does not disqualify you from an ethical standpoint to be able to vote on something.
Perfect.
If that
Thank
make-
you.
So that's why I say,
Makes
we
sense.
need to look at the current procurement policy, how it's operating. If you want to give some limits up to a certain point on certain things and increase. And in fact, I think right now the limit on the mayor is what?
500.
500. At one time, it was 1,000.
Mhm.
I think in council at a previous date reduced that. So if you want to turn around, that would take care of some of the stuff that you're talking about.
Mhm.
Pine straw, some of these other things that you could do and go ahead and get quotations on that and go ahead and make a decision, put it down.
Mhm.
All right. On the other hand, if you start getting into something over $5,000 perhaps, then not only under the procurement, and you've got sole source, you've got some other things that you can do from the council standpoint, but at the same time, it's always imperative as to whatever you send out and you request quotes, you give them a deadline. Why you had a month in between somebody furnished a quote and somebody else. Give them a deadline in whatever you put out, RFP or request for a proposal, or if it's a, notice of however you want to couch it, as long as the main thing is telling the people what it is you want them to bid on or furnish a proposal on, so that, offer A, offer B, and offer C know exactly what to do. Now, whether or not they offer all of that in their proposal, then that's up to them, or if they change something, and then council has to go back and make a decision on that. But problem I saw, you had 3 different proposals on the tear down, and nobody was proposing exactly the same thing.
Mhm.
So you need all of them to be on the same page to be able to make a proposal.
Okay.
So, anyway, but I think that's the main thing that you need to do is everybody sit down. Because technically, there's nothing, as far as I recall, there's nothing wrong with the procurement policy that you have
Mhm.
as far as covering all those issues.
Mhm.
Now, the question is, operationally, do you need to take a look at it and what you're doing, because it hamstrings you on getting business done, and I think that's what you need to do.
Don't
If that
throw the
makes sense.
baby out with the bathwater, that's what you're saying. Floyd, do you have any questions or any follow-ups? I know that you've looked at this more than I have over the last couple of weeks.
Not right now. I've got some things I'm working on with regard to this, and I
Okay.
may come up to it, but right now I think pretty much what's been said needs to be said.
Okay. All right, excellent. So do we have any other final questions about the new business or anything else that we have discussed up to this point? Okay, for 39 Main Street, I don't really have an update other than we're going to go back and redo the procurement policy. Brad, in this situation, do you think it would be okay for us to go ahead and produce the bid sheet that we're talking about, and then send it back out to these 3 and get it redrafted so we can have this come back up for consideration?
Yeah.
Okay. And even if it's not the final form, because we're not doing anything that we shouldn't, right? Even if it's not in the final approved form, the bid sheet? Does the bid sheet have to be approved by council before we
No.
start using it? Okay.
No.
There we go.
No.
That's where I was trying to drive to.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, I
No,
asked a
that-
question for you.
No.
Okay.
But what I would do is take a look at the 3 proposals that you have,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and put that in your sheet. Now, what I said, Floyd probably covers all of that.
Mhm.
But, in other words, you want to make sure that they're able to, in this particular instance specifically, determine if there's asbestos in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've had some inspections, I'm not sure that I've seen the inspection, as to whether there's asbestos there, because that has to be disposed of
Mhm.
differently.
Right.
And one of the proposals was that the city was going to dispose of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you put asbestos in the dumpster and you haul the dumpster off, EPD's going to come back on the city
Mm-hmm.
if they determine there's asbestos there. So anytime you're in the demolition of something like that, you've got to be careful about,
Yeah.
Now, one of the other bidders, I think the other two bidders were gonna haul all the stuff off and dispose of it. So you have to assume that they knew what was in there. The problem was, if we know there's asbestos, we need to tell them. So one of the first things that they need to do is go on site and do their own inspection before they submit a proposal, and you furnish to them whatever you need.
Okay.
Because you don't want to get in a situation and award the contract, and the guy come back and say, well, you didn't tell us it was asbestos in there. And then
Okay.
kind of right back, so.
My experience with asbestos was in California and in Mexico. And there's two kind of asbestos. In Georgia, is this the case? If it's contained, like if it's in an undamaged pipe, that's a pipe case wrapping, painted, that's one thing. But if it's busted loose and dust all over the place, that's something separate.
Correct.
Two different things.
Two different things. You have to make that determination.
Okay.
Yeah.
How
Now,
about
we got,
lead-
I
how about
will
lead
say,
paint?
in another jurisdiction, we got in trouble one time, and the city got in trouble, where they were, the contractors were tearing down houses and burying the asbestos shingles from the roof and from the siding in the house in the ground on site. And EPD caught us, and obviously, that particular city's building department was not overseeing what was going on, and that was a nice little fine. And of course, the contractor was gone by that time. The city actually had to go out there and dig the stuff out, haul it off.
And the dirt around it.
Pardon?
And the dirt around it.
Well, yeah, we were very careful. The dirt that had come in contact, so you had to dig a bigger hole and take it
Is
off.
lead paint in that same category still?
Pardon?
Is lead paint?
Lead paint is still in a category on the material, as I understand it, if it's chippable.
Okay.
In other words, you know what, if you can still dispose of it in the landfill if the wall material is not chippable. Now, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but that's.
And the $65,000 question, or $64,000 question is, how you gonna destroy a house, tear it down and not bust up wood and release it?
Well, again, I think there are levels as to what you can do.
But for our purposes tonight, I mean, it's a concern just like the asbestos is.
Correct. But you could, I mean, and people who are familiar with doing these demolitions, they know what those are. And they know how to put that in the bid to take care of what it is they have to do. So, and usually it's my understanding is you take them to different landfills. In other words, you can take as bad because of the difference in the way certain C&D landfills are done, if you're taking concrete and this kind of stuff, versus lined landfills where you take stuff like gravel, asbestos, and stuff like that. So, but anyway, you just rely on the contractor because I think what you want them to do is haul it off.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, including something like that in your procedure, in your request for a bid, that's gonna weed out some people.
Do what now?
That's going to weed out some people.
Yes, yes, it will. Yep. All right, okay, so that is our update for 39 Main Street. You do have some more quotes in front of you for the back parking lot fences. Had a question after the last council meeting. Can you have one of the companies come back and do an actual crossbuck, the X, for the back fence so we can compare it. Certifab also provided additional information. So if this sheet has their additional information and then I think it's the last sheet has Clement's bid on there.
And again, there's a basic difference, 204 versus 240. 204 feet versus 240.
So Certifab's price is still 3,500. That was listed on the original quote.
Yes, I think so, because I don't see anything on here that is different, and all of the prices equal out to that 1208 per foot, running foot.
Yeah. And I don't have a calculator in front of me, but the Clements is about
1850.
1850.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it looks like Clements is asking us to locate the underground utilities
Mm-hmm.
and to clear the fence lines and grade. And I don't know what the other guy's gonna do. Nope, I don't know what he's gonna do as far as the clearing the lines, but he said he would, I think his number 4 is he coordinate that with call before you dig.
Always get that line item for on the updated quote for Certifab. It'll coordinate and to find any conflicts with where he's dropping post at, it looks like.
Based on the utilities,
Yeah.
yeah. We don't have a sprinkler out there, do we?
Not that far, but we may end up based on what landscaping we do, but I don't know, that'd be kind of a far place to run a sprinkler line. The only place I could think of would be in that other island that is about halfway through the back.
But that would be, I mean, the sprinkler would come after this, though, wouldn't it?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's a moot point.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just a generic thing that they put on the Clements, because I've seen that on some of their other bids.
But 240 feet is satisfactory, that's what we're looking for, is that correct?
Yeah.
I talked to, and this is, again, is something that our procurement procedure ought to cover, but I talked to one of the guys who was out there putting up that black chain link fence, and he told me about the X fence, or the split rail. When I asked him about the X fence, he described it exactly. And he described it as exactly the way they built one in front of Melissa's house. So it's, at least their employees' understanding and what Slade has put out are the same.
Yes, and when I talked with Dustin, I made sure, I said, so that X with the box around it, and then the running post. And
No
so,
wire,
No wire.
no gates.
Okay. Yeah.
So except for the distance, you're pretty much a push over here. Rough cut, pressure treated. Wasn't there something on this thing that Slade had sent in about about that mound of trash and debris in the corner down there?
Yep. Yeah, it's on there.
He was gonna do that for another 600. I drove down there and looked at that. That's a heck of a pile of stuff.
Is that where our
and-
old sign is down here, is that what he's talking about?
Yeah.
No, it's the stuff behind.
Not behind Beckman's, but at the corner down
By the parking lot, right?
there. Cause you got
Behind the new parking lot.
cement based 6x6s and
Yeah. Okay.
You got-
Okay.
you
Yeah.
got a container of trash.
There
down
is some stuff down there that I would like to try to reuse, but I do think I would certainly like to take advantage of it and have it cleaned up.
I think
Because it does need to be cleaned up and at least organized or whatever.
I think his point, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm sitting there conspiring with him, but his point was, you put a fence up, for, you know, for whatever you have paying
How are
for.
we gonna get to the
How you
stuff?
gonna get to the pile of stuff behind it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Tear the-
true.
tear the
Yeah, that's
fence
true.
down.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd have to figure something out. But I do think in our follow-up conversations, we didn't quite take the fence all the way down there.
Really?
Yeah, because the way that it goes is the walking trail comes along here, and then you've got a little bit of a hill or a little bit of a step off the edge of the sidewalk. But as you get down, it kind of starts to scoot in, and then right here back at the corner, it comes and slopes down. So you only literally have maybe from me to the table to go to, whereas further up, you've got maybe another foot or so behind it. It kind of starts to slope away as you get back towards the junk.
Well, junk needs to be moved, whether it's as part of this project or.
Yes, absolutely. We got to get it out of the way and dispose of what we can't use and reuse what we can.
Okay.
Does council have a preference for either of the bids?
Well, I'm making a motion we go with Certifab.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. All right, new business and old business being concluded. Do we have any comments from the public?
I have a question.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Do you want to wait on the 600 for the moving the trash, or?
But that's included in his
Yeah,
original
yeah,
quote.
yeah, it's included in his
He's
amount.
got an existing
Okay.
trash.
Yeah, it's
system,
included in
so-
his amount, I think, but, yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay, new business and old business being concluded. Do we have any comments from the public?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
based on the other meeting, and also something, every time you said public, you looked at me really hard.
Oh, no. Well, I was just looking at the public.
But anyway, I'm the only public you got. Based on what Tom said, he brought up the word recused,
Mhm.
and then what Brad said, he said perceived, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I went back after that last meeting to look at the charter to see what it said about procurement of
Mhm.
interest, and it uses the word directly or indirectly in the charter where it says
Financial?
contracts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I brought a copy of it. I'm slow getting up, folks.
No, I'll come to you. Stay right there.
Well, yeah, I got one here, one for you and one for,
Put your seats.
it says directly, give
Oh.
one to Brad.
Who has a direct or indirect financial interest, or
Yeah,
by
'cause there was
reason of
such a
ownership,
confusion at the last meeting that people
in
coming
any
and going, and who
contract.
was recused and who wasn't recused.
services,
And I thought, I went back and
shall
looked
make
and see what
known
it
that
said.
interest.
So it's basically, it's financial interest.
But it's used the word directly and indirectly. What is-
Direct or
you
indirect
know what
financial
direct is.
interest.
What is indirect?
Indirect would
Good
be
question.
Like,
if,
Well, let the attorney do it. He said perceived and not perceived, which I imagine would cover that.
mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Our direct would be if the mayor owned it, indirect would be if his daughter owned it.
Say again.
Direct would be if the mayor owned it. Indirect would be if his daughter owned it, or his wife owned it, or his father owned it. That's
Okay.
the indirect.
That's indirect.
That's indirect. And that's under state law that talks about that. Now, cousins, unless you're getting a direct, is
Well,
far
yeah.
removed. You
Yeah, I
follow?
understand.
So, yeah, so this is exactly what we were saying.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I don't think, what I was saying perceived is that I don't think the mayor had to recuse himself from that last vote under the charter or the ethics ordinances, because he had no direct or indirect financial interest in it.
I was wondering why he didn't come back and vote on that second time. That's what I was wondering, why he didn't come back in here. But anyway, it's here another, you've answered my question. Thank you.
It was just being safe than sorry. You know, I would just rather be safe than sorry.
let me ask you a question.
That's really what it was.
Central Fab is my son-in-law. He's my stepdaughter's husband, stepdaughter. I have no financial involvement with him at all, except that he owes me some money.
That's incorrect.
Are you ever gonna get it?
Never. You know, when you let people in your family borrow money, you don't have to get it. But no,
As long as you don't have a direct financial interest in his.
in other words, I'm not a silent partner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Cool.
so that's,
You've never been silent, Tom. Only time in that.
Anything else, Ms. Polly? Okay. Mr. Nolan?
Two things, and you kind of touched on it, those Leland cypress you want to plant down there, $1,200-$1,500 worth,
Mhm.
somebody's going to put water on them for the first year.
Right.
So you guys, you mentioned something about possibly sprinkler irrigation, possibly just something you might want to think about. And the other thing, we were talking about the procurement policy. Can we not work with another city that's a little larger than us and get a policy from them and maybe have something within 30 days on paper here for people that want to do contract with us? I mean, cities, states, counties all work together usually like that.
So one of the options that will probably, hopefully be in the procurement policy is the piggyback policy. And that's exactly what you say. If we have a job to be done, we could piggyback on another municipality's contract. And that is allowed in state law. I don't know if, so do we have to do anything in specifically to be able to do that? Or is it just becomes part of one of the bids?
I'd have to go back and take a look.
Okay.
I don't know why you couldn't. But I mean, it's just like buying police cars on the state contract.
Right. We're just using another municipality's contract.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming up that we want to get done.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep putting it off month after month after
Right.
month. We need to get it done. Let's get a policy put in place that would work for everybody.
I would think that would be a pretty quick thing,
Yeah.
but it's not rocket science.
It's not. And now that we've got direction from council, support from attorney, I think it's something we can go in and just push out.
Around the house, using the house as a.
Yes, as a test case.
Yeah, test case,
Yes.
yeah, sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Nolan? All right.
Just things to keep in mind.
Perfect. Polling of council, I'll start from the far end, Mr. Edge.
I don't have anything.
All right. Excellent. Mr. Parton?
What's the, hadn't heard anything mentioned about getting rid of the rats in the house.
It was, we voted on that last time. didn't we?
Well,
Well, I mean, how's it coming along though, what I'm saying? Anything been done about it?
I don't know that we've taken any bids or anything on fumigation. I think we have a pest control company that we use here. We can just ask them. But the other thing that I was thinking about, because I did give my card to a pest control guy that I saw out, and I told him to call us. Can we not just throw rat poison up underneath there and kill them ourselves? No?
Fumigating a house to destroy all the animals in it is totally different than putting poison under there. Because you put poison under there, you may or may not get them.
Okay.
And also, you don't have a license to do it. Pesticide application license. And I say that from personal experience. I have a license, or I had a license at one time. And I did all that in sugar refinery. And fumigating versus just throwing out pesticide is totally different.
Okay, all right. Then that I was looking for a cheaper, easier way to do it, but sometimes it's not possible.
In reality, it works. You could do it, but hell, you killed the guy's dog next door, and it's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, right. All right. Mr. Parton,
That's it.
is it? Mr. Siegel?
Nothing.
All right. Administrator's minutes?
Where do I start? Okay. Got a phone call from Luis, who did the renovations here. Says he is done with the work. He finished it on Friday, is what he says. And I would appreciate if I could get a couple of members of the council to take a look at the finished work, perhaps in the morning. Make sure that you guys are good with what's happened. Let's take notes. If there's anything that needs to be done, then we can notify him. If not, then we can cut him a check. But I'd like to get you guys' buy-in on what else needs to be done in here for his work.
Yeah, I definitely would like y'all, as your schedules allow, to take a turn around in the daylight and look at it and see. I have remarked several times how good this room looks in here. It's just it's completely different, absolutely completely different.
And I do think on that note too, we're gonna have to start considering the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is pretty clear. You walk through, you can hear it crunching.
Mm-hmm.
This is a heavily used floor. We're gonna have to get this under control.
One of the things that every interior decorator will ever tell you is that if you change a picture, you're gonna end up spending $20,000 fixing up the sofa.
Yeah, and they're probably right.
Because one thing makes the rest of it look bad.
Mhm.
But this does look good.
Yeah.
We've got some money for a door, for the door.
Mhm.
Weren't we talking about using that for a new lock? Or locking
Yes,
mechanism?
so one of the things that I know we're gonna need to put on the list is the door hardware. And I don't know if Luis would install that or if we would get somebody else to do it. I'm okay with either one, but.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't part of the original deal.
I know, yeah, I know.
There are a couple of things that I've seen that I want him to do that were not on the original deal. And there's some things that he did that were not on the original deal too.
Yeah.
So, and he took care of that interior of that outside bathroom. He fixed some cracks in the ceiling.
Yep.
And did that. I think he painted the floor
Oh, I haven't been in
He
there.
did.
with epoxy paint.
He did?
Yeah. And that wasn't part of it.
Okay.
But anyway, be that as it may, if you walk around tomorrow, I got a couple things I'll point out to you.
Okay.
And there are a couple of things we need to do too. Now that we've got this place painted up, fixed up, patched up, we need to go to that bulletin board in there. It's got the water stain bar
Yeah,
on it.
we need to get a whole new
do
one,
that.
honestly.
Well, that actually is something we actually asked Luis about as well. And I
Did you really?
think he may have caulked it perhaps, but again, that needs to be part of the walk around.
Okay.
Okay.
So that, yeah, he's aware of that, but not sure where he landed with it. Okay. Next, I have a quote for getting enhanced security here. I do have questions. I've already got a phone call out to the company. But this is just sort of kind of giving a sense of what may be coming down the line. Not acting for action right now, but this is certainly in the works. There's been a discussion about these tables and chairs in this room. And I understand that we would like to surplus, as I understand the conversation, in order to get new ones. I just need to get clarity on what is the idea on the surplus.
So what I would like to do is I'd like council's permission to surplus the tables, and then we will work with Mary Quinn to give her some of them in exchange for her work in the redecoration and coordination with the community center. And that would happen after we got the new ones in.
Well, my thing is that this is a room that we rent, and I don't want there to be tables here, then the new tables in here, and we're flooding it out with tables and chairs.
No.
So we need to really have it coordinated so this can clear out so we can get the new stuff in.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this.
Maybe not the time and place for it, but I don't think she wants but one or two of them.
Okay.
So what you could do, you might be able to auction them off, or
Okay. Or, if any council members have any need for the tables, I mean, we can certainly, this is a volunteer council.
I love them. I wish we could use them.
Okay.
I mean, the table, no, but the stands are great.
Right.
We need to figure, because I don't, just to reiterate, I don't want to bring in a whole new set
Agreed.
and having people having their birthday parties and wedding
Yeah.
anniversaries, and I'm gonna have to room with tables and chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody should know how to do an online sale.
Oh, there are several different mechanisms we could use to surplus them out. I mean,
Yeah,
and you just take a picture and you upload it, and then
Oh, yeah.
they take a
just
They'd be
receipt.
gone
just
in a
save a couple
weekend.
of them for her. That's all she wants.
Okay.
I know a guy in Gay that might want.
Pardon? Did you have anything? No. Okay.
Also getting quotes on Toshiba printers, and then we talked about it a little bit.
Floyd, did you want to go back and talk about the ultimate security?
I'm just saying that some of this
Okay,
coming down
it's
the line,
coming.
I've already got calls about
Right.
that. Active code enforcement is still working. I'm also communicating with, at this point, Unicode about codification. I would like to go ahead and get the auditors to come on in and audit our books as we need to. And I have the notes on the door. But there's a lot of moving parts that are going on that other side of the wall. And that we're working those as well too.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions for our administrator? Okay. One of the things, I am going to take some time real quick to to go over some mayor's updates. I want to pass this down. You guys have seen this before. This is the project list that we talked about back in August and then again in October. But I have also gone on to the next page and started adding some more projects that we got to in late 22 and moving into 23. I also came up with another task list, which is basically a punch list for the parking lot. And then finally, the last page is just some ideas and some options for the pond out there, for the pit. I would like to use it for more than just a standard detention pond. I'd like to make it pretty, but that's no surprise. But I give you guys this information so that you, first off, you know some of the things that I've been working on. These are all projects that I have either started, worked on, or are in progress, or have been working on over the last couple of years. And I wanted to put it in this format to show you guys so that you can see all the many different little bitty projects that we have going on and all the things that we need to follow up on. I wanted to show this to you also so that you kind of see where I'm talking about with my procurement complaints. If you could imagine getting 3 bids or 4 bids on every one of these projects, you can quickly see how that would grow and become administratively burdensome with the staff that we have. I have no problem having a transparent and open government, but when you're trying to do this many things on the limited budget and limited staff that we've got, it just, it makes it a little more apparent and a little more real. And then the third reason I bring this to you is twofold. Number one, I know that I don't have all the good ideas in this room. I know that you guys can take this list, add to it, and make it better. And then the other reason I show it to you is I'm hoping that you guys will see something on here that you like and that you say, hey, this is something that I would really enjoy doing, and then you help me do it. If that is the case, it would be your project to run, your idea, and you would have almost my complete and full authority behind it to do the work. And I also wanted to show this because this does become a part of public record. And Ms. Polly, I have one here for you, even though I will apologize for the size of the font. It's T-daggum tiny, but we're going to make it a little bit bigger. But having this list in front of us, and you see all the things that we have to do. And so as I'm working out there and I'm trying to get these things done and I'm trying to find ways to do things efficiently and effectively, I put in a lot of effort in thinking and finding it. And then finally, one day, I have a guy that comes along and says, hey, I can help you do this. I've got experience in 1 and 2 and 3, and I live here too, and I can come and help you. That was a really good day for me because it's someone that's invested, it's someone that cares about the town, cares about the way that it looks, cares about how his kids are raised. And then I started getting a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of worry. Well, because the guy that came to me is the husband of one of my council members. And that to me just makes me feel wonderful that a family member wants to come and help. Earlier today, my stepson and I cleaned up some garbage from around town hall. We picked up about 5 bags of trash. My daughter's asking about the library. You know, we are a small town and our families are going to be involved. And the one thing that I want to say and that I want to point out is that if someone wants to come and help us, I say let's bring them in, let's do it. We do things in a transparent way. We are open and honest, and if anybody calls any of us and asks us a question, we will answer it. But I just wanted to take a moment and say that when we have all this work that is being done by a mostly volunteer government, with the exception of 3 staff members, anything that we can do to make our jobs easier while giving good governance and following the law, we will do. And I know that people roll their eyes and say, oh, well, so-and-so's only doing it because of what, or because of whatever. And if that's the case, fine. We've talked about some of this stuff for a year and it's still not done. And then we come down to get it done and getting ready to go, and we want to put roadblocks in front of ourselves. I say, as long as we're talking about it and as long as we are being open, as long as we're being transparent, let us go down the road, because these things, we've already seen. I am amazed at the difference that I feel when I turn into this parking lot, come to work here every day. And Tom, thank you for your connections with Luis, and thank you for sticking with it and getting him out here. But it's going to be those kind of connections that make small towns special. And I don't want to be so afraid of the perceived conflicts that we slow down, or that we stop, or that we look short when we should be looking long. Because a lot of these things in here, I've gotten chuckles from some of you saying that we don't need this or we don't need that. And you're right, we don't need it now. But when we finally do get all of our stuff together, and we do need downtown signage or gateway signage, I don't want to be scrambling to try to figure that out ahead of time. And, you know, we're the little city that could. And we keep on doing, and we keep on going. And that's part of what makes the Magic special, is having folks like that who are willing to come in and do something because they love it. And I just wanted to share it with you, because this is why we keep tilting at the windmill, so that we can do these things and make it better. All right, I'm off my soapbox.
I volunteer to do your newsletter.
Hey, that'll work. Okay, perfect.
You have to tell me what you want in it though.
Okay, we can do that. Hallelujah, thank you, Miss Polly, because that's something that we did the first couple of years, but then the pandemic hit and we fell off. But let's do it. Wonderful. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Does anybody else have anything?
I'd like to sit down with somebody and have them tell me what all these different acronyms are.
So
I don't follow this.
okay, so I do want to apologize. I do need to go in and clean it up, but I knew that I've been meaning to put this list together for about 3 months now, before the holidays came around, and I finally got it there. But I'm going to clean it up and clear around. But yes.
Yeah, just a few of the things are moot. I mean, because you're not going to improve the Beckham property.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it has been improved, and it will continue to be.
Improved?
But yeah.
You're going to improve it, knock it down.
By knocking it down, absolutely. In progress. And I'll go back and put little indicators that show you where it is, but.
Be a good set of topics for
Work sessions. Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And this is honestly is kind of borne out by the work sessions that we did right before the holidays, because I want this to go into our master/strategic plan. So.
Yeah, or not.
Or not. Yeah. Okay. I'm done talking. If y'all are done talking too, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion we adjourn.
Tom Teagle has the first. Stan Parton has the second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We are adjourned.